We got married, and just 4 days later, we began a new part of our lives on the east coast of the USA. I worked as an engineer, and she got a job as a chemist. Looking back, the first 4 years of our marriage were pretty happy, if not perfect. Since we didn't have family or friends nearby, we spent most of our time together, creating some unforgettable memories. Trouble started when we decided to buy a townhouse, and I suggested starting a family, thinking it was the next step in our relationship. However, when I brought it up, things took a bad turn. We argued a lot, and my ex admitted she didn't have a problem with having kids, but she didn't want them with me. That hurt. She said having a child with me would tie her down completely, and she wasn't sure about spending her life with me. As we talked more, things got worse until my ex-wife told me she was no longer attracted to me. I asked if there was someone else, and to my dismay, she confessed to being strongly attracted to her boss. Turns out, they had secretly liked each other for a while, and their relationship turned physical during work trips. When I returned from my trip, something was off with my wife. She seemed sorry and suggested we sell our house and move to a smaller town for a fresh start. I was confused, since we just went through a rough patch, and now she wanted to relocate with me? It didn't make sense. Then, she started talking about her mother cheating on her first husband during a trip to Mexico. She hinted at something, but I couldn't figure it out. I should have been alarmed when she admitted being attracted to her boss, especially since they traveled together for work. It was almost a confession of cheating on their recent trip, but I was young and naive, and the situation didn't register. Soon, things went out of control. She worked late, went away on weekends to the mountains, where I later found out her boss had a cabin, and even took a alone 1-week vacation to clear her mind. This was before cell phones, so I couldn't reach her. I remember losing my mind not hearing from my wife for a week, with no idea where she was. My thoughts raced, considering every scenario except the obvious one. She was with her lover on a week-long vacation. As time went on, I stayed by her side, doing my best to help. I covered the costs for her counseling, drove her to appointments, and waited in the car. I hoped therapy would make her see that she was treating me unfairly. However, during one session, the therapist suggested divorce might be the best option, and surprisingly, my wife seemed to agree. Despite this setback, I still held on to hope that we could figure things out and she'd become the loving partner she used to be. Her behavior became unpredictable, showing she was dealing with inner struggles. One moment she'd express love, and the next, she couldn't stand being near me. I noticed she constantly tried to start fights, giving various reasons for her unhappiness. She'd keep pushing until I got upset, then escalate the argument until I had to leave the house for some peace. This was her chance to call her lover, as shown by the phone records. When she asked for a divorce, it felt like my world fell apart. While our marriage had its challenges, divorce had never crossed my mind. You have to understand, I come from a deeply Catholic background, specifically Hispanic, and divorce was a taboo subject in my upbringing. During that time, I had to attend a 2-week training in another state. When I returned, she was gone, and so were half of our furniture and savings. I was left clueless about her whereabouts. With no internet or online support groups available, I had no one to turn to. Feeling alone and abandoned, I sank into a dark hole of depression. The drama and stress had taken a toll on me for the past 18 months, and I had let myself go. I gained weight and didn't care about my physical or mental well-being. Looking back, I appeared as terrible as I felt. My ex disappeared without a trace, leaving me with no way to contact her, no return address, and no support from mutual friends she had deceived. In a matter of days, I was completely isolated. Somehow I forced myself out of bed each morning and went to work, earning just enough to stay afloat. One morning, almost a year after my ex left me alone and broke, I woke up to see shadows moving slowly on the empty walls of my home. It felt like a scene from a horror movie, but the real horror was my life. I realized that if I didn't pull myself out of this despair soon, I would become nothing more than a shadow in the wall of an empty room. Back then, I felt like I was in a living nightmare. To give you an idea, 5 years before my ex left me, I had to undergo open-heart surgery. Surgeons cut my chest open, spread my ribs, and wired my chest back together with 11 titanium wires. It took me 18 months to recover from that ordeal, but I would have rather gone through it all again than relive the experience of being betrayed and abandoned by my spouse. It was a really tough time, but somehow I found the strength to pull myself out of that deep well of despair and start rebuilding my life. I was determined to completely change who I was from the inside out. Despite facing many challenges, I still had a good job and a roof over my head. So I began focusing on my health and well-being. I started exercising regularly and lost an impressive 50 pounds. I got rid of my old clothes and got some stylish new ones. I even switched from glasses to contact lenses. On top of all that, I started running and trained for a marathon, but that's not all. I also got into rock climbing and joined a volleyball team. Gradually, I began living a life I could be proud of. Even though I may not be the most handsome guy, I started radiating an aura of confidence that people noticed. Women found me attractive, and soon enough, I was back in the dating scene. Looking back, I realized that my wife's betrayal turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to me. It allowed me to discover my true self and become the man I was meant to be. After a couple of years living my new life, I found myself looking for a new companion. Fate had it that I found her in a friend from work, someone who had seen my decline and subsequent rise from the ashes. To say she was stunning would be an understatement. Even the guards in my building, who I had become good friends with, couldn't believe I was dating the babe of the building. After falling in love and getting married, my wife decided to quit her job and focus on raising our 4 children. With only one income on the expensive East Coast of the USA, luxury was out of the question. But my wife proved to be an excellent home manager and an even better mother. She was a force to be reckoned with, running triathlons and learning auto maintenance, woodworking, and carpentry while managing our family of 6. There was no household project she wouldn't tackle. Currently, we're building a camper van to explore the USA when I retire in December. And to top it all off, we're eagerly awaiting the arrival of our first grandchild this winter. My wife taught me the real meaning of a strong, independent woman, and my life has been better for it. We never know what the future will bring, so we just have to stay positive and trust that good people are out there looking for us too. Betrayal doesn't have to define us, especially if there's no chance for reconciliation. Even if a relationship doesn't work out, it doesn't mean the end of the road. You might be curious about what happened to the ex. Well, a few years after she left, I heard through the grapevine that her boss divorced his wife, and soon after, they became a couple and eventually got married. Funny how things work out, isn't it? Fast forward to around 15 years ago, out of nowhere, she managed to track down my number and give me a call. She wanted to let me know that a mutual friend had passed away. We chatted for a bit, and I couldn't help but ask how she was doing. Her response was a bit cryptic, something like, living with the consequences of her past mistakes. I replied with a nonchalant, "It's all water under the bridge," and promptly hung up. To be honest, I'm grateful to my ex-wife for bringing me and my current wife together. It's strange how life works sometimes, isn't it? One decision can change everything. And here's another thing. My unsuccessful marriage steered me toward a new path in life. Over the past 15 years, I've been leading a ministry at my parish, assisting those going through divorces and separations. As a Catholic permanent deacon, I've worked with numerous individuals, guiding them to find peace and hope for the future. You could say that my ex-wife's unwillingness to reconcile with me has directed me toward a more significant purpose. Now let's address a few questions you might have while hearing my story. Did she ever apologize? No, she never said sorry. She didn't even bid farewell. It was as if the years we spent together, from being best friends in college to dating and getting married, meant nothing to her. Did you ever talk to her? We co-owned a townhouse, and since she contributed to the mortgage, we had to communicate. She developed an odd system of phone calls through friends for me to reach her, and then she would call me back only if she thought communication was necessary. We only spoke a few times. Have you ever laid eyes on her again? I saw her 3 times after she left me, the last time being the day our divorce was finalized, a couple of years after her betrayal. She looked disheveled, dressed like a hippie, without makeup. Meanwhile, I had lost 50 pounds and was hitting the gym hard. Due to my weight loss, all my clothes were tailored, making me look sharp in my suit and tie. The last glance she gave me when the judge asked if I had any objections to the divorce agreement is forever etched in my mind. It was pure hatred. Her narcissistic mind couldn't handle the fact that I had thrived without her negative influence in my life. Second story. Recently, I've been suspecting my wife's faithfulness, but it's tricky without solid proof to support my gut feeling. I'm hesitant to confront her or bring up the topic, fearing unnecessary drama or giving her a chance to cover her tracks if she's guilty. It's a tough decision, and I'm uncertain about my next move. In the recent months, something seems off with my wife. Small things don't add up. About 4 months ago, she started hitting the gym and paying more attention to her appearance. She's always been beautiful, but she never cared much for makeup or hairstyling. Now she's always dressed up. Another concern is how protective she is of her phone. While it's normal for us to go through each other's phones, hers is always with her. If I need to use it for something innocent like taking a picture, she tells me to use my own phone. Additionally, she's been working late and traveling more for her job. Something just doesn't feel right. Over the past 4 months, my wife hasn't shown interest in being close with me. Quick, meaningless kisses are all I get. I've tried initiating physical contact, but she's turned me down, and when she does give in, she just lies there, unresponsive. It leaves me feeling worse than a direct rejection. When I brought up the lack of closeness before, she blamed it on tiredness from being a mom, work, and lifting weights. She promised to try harder and even kissed me later that night, but nothing has changed since then. I've been trying to figure out what's going on with my wife lately. Could it be a midlife crisis? Or maybe something else? It's hard to pinpoint. But there's a guy at her workplace that caught my attention. She used to talk about him all the time, but suddenly stopped a few months back. Despite this, I know they still work closely together. Apparently, he's married with kids and has been confiding in my wife about his own marital issues. I've briefly met him a few times, but he didn't seem interested in getting to know me. It's got me thinking that he could be trouble. I hate to admit it, but I've been comparing myself to this guy at my wife's work. He's not as good looking as me, and definitely not in the same physical shape. Not to brag, but it's true. I'm big and strong, while he's average and a little overweight. But he dresses sharply, is outgoing, and enjoys a drink, something my wife has mentioned a few times that she wishes I would do more often. He has a master's degree, while I only graduated from high school. And to top it off, he makes more money than I do. As a trainer for fighters, I earn a modest income, but my passion for the job is invaluable. On the flip side, there's this guy who's wealthy and enjoys flaunting his riches. I don't usually compare myself to others, but in this situation, the contrasts between us are glaring. What's been bothering me is my wife's recent business trip to a tropical resort. Initially, I thought many coworkers would be there, but it turns out it was just her, the flashy guy, and the CEO. The CEO isn't a concern due to age, but the other guy is a different story. My gut tells me something happened between them during that week, and not knowing for sure is driving me crazy. My inner detective senses something is off in my marriage, but I'm cautious not to jump to conclusions and worsen things by confronting her. While our marriage has had its challenges, overall, it's been decent. Nothing major has occurred to make me question her loyalty. However, my wife and I have different personalities. I'm not the most social person, and I don't make a lot of money, which frustrates her. She believes I should be pursuing a more lucrative career, but my passion lies in fighting and training fighters, something I've known my whole life. I could consider becoming a personal trainer, but these paths don't lead to significant earnings. Apart from this, she seems content in our marriage. However, I can't shake the feeling that something is off, especially in her behavior towards me and this flashy guy at work. A friend suggested I play the spy and gather evidence to confirm my suspicions, but I'm uncomfortable violating my wife's privacy. If she is cheating, forgiveness might be challenging, but I hope my hunch is wrong. Lately, thoughts of infidelity have been creeping into my mind, and I can't shake them. The scariest part is, we have 2 kids, and the idea of losing them terrifies me. I'm heavily invested in their lives, and the thought of only seeing them half the time breaks my heart. Any suggestions on how to approach this situation would be appreciated. Update. I got the login details for our cell phone account. My wife uses her phone a lot for work, and initially, everything seemed normal when I checked it. However, as I sorted through the numbers and times, I noticed a large number of texts sent to a single number, often late at night, a few hours after we went to bed. I'm determined to find out who owns this number and plan to somehow access my wife's phone to see whose name is saved under it. When I discovered this, my emotions got the best of me, and I started feeling angry. I tried convincing myself it was a mistake or some friend of hers. But last night, when I tried to get close to her, she turned me down again. She apologized, citing tiredness and a headache. I expressed my feeling that we weren't connecting well, and she apologized, promising to do better. However, she had made similar promises before without following through. Not wanting to push further, I just said goodnight and went to bed. This morning, she casually mentioned thinking about a trip to Vegas with some college girlfriends. Despite not being into gambling, it struck me as odd. I asked about her companions, and she named a few girls I had never met. It might all be a coincidence, but I can't shake this feeling that something is off. Update. Recapping, I've had serious suspicions about my wife having an affair. So, I decided to snoop around and found something interesting. Detailed cell phone records revealed countless late-night texts to one specific number, hundreds of them. Taking a chance, I called the number from a payphone, and it turned out to be one of her co-workers, the same one I suspected. I had a sneaky feeling this guy might be trouble. But wait, it gets worse. I got her phone while she was in the shower, and guess what? The entire text conversation with this guy had been deleted. To make matters more incriminating, the number I called earlier was saved in her phone under a female name. Yes, she was trying to be sneaky about it. Now, my mind is filled with worries about all those out-of-town trips she took with this guy. Something is definitely not right here, and I'm starting to fear the worst. After discovering evidence of my wife's potential infidelity, I had to leave the house to clear my head. Despite my best efforts, I'm not sure what to do next. If I confront her now, she may come up with some excuse or lie. Should I wait and gather more evidence before approaching her, or should I come clean immediately? I am seething with anger, and the thought of the other guy makes me want to lash out. But I know that won't solve anything. I fear that if I do confront her, she may only admit to minor flirtations, leaving me without enough proof of the bigger picture. I could really use some advice on how to proceed. I laid in wait like a lion stalking its prey with a sneaky plan, pretending to be asleep, biding my time. After everyone was in bed and the house was silent, I kept one eye open, waiting for her to make a move. And sure enough, the clock struck 12, and my wife got out of bed and slinked into another room, quietly closing the door behind her. I waited a few minutes before getting up and slowly walking towards her. I caught her red-handed mid-text and stood over her before she could react. Her eyes widened in shock as she tried to hide her phone, but it was too late. I demanded to know who she was texting at this ungodly hour. She stammered and stuttered, trying to come up with a plausible excuse, but I wasn't buying it. She said it was just a girlfriend, but I knew there was more to it than that. I had her cornered, and she knew it. I couldn't believe what I had just done. My plan was risky, but it worked. I started kissing her and asked if she wanted to fool around, just as I expected. She said she couldn't. I laughed and playfully teased her, saying that she must be more into the girlfriend that she was texting than me. Then, I started to tickle her, and we playfully wrestled. I managed to get the phone from her, and I could see the panic in her eyes. She tried to get it back, but I held it in the air, like I was playing keep-away. I laughed and acted like I was having fun the entire time, telling her that I was going to call this girlfriend and ask if she was into my wife. As my wife pleaded with me not to call her friend, a sense of satisfaction overcame me. I walked away, pretending to end the conversation, while secretly checking the text messages on her phone. One message caught my eye, saying, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." My heart raced as I hit the call button, waiting for a response. A man's voice came through the speaker, and I hung up, unsure of what to say. Turning to my wife, I began reading the messages aloud. I could see fear in her eyes as I asked if the recipient was a guy or her friend. She stayed silent. Continuing, I demanded an explanation for the late-night text to this guy. She stuttered, claiming she didn't know. I pressed on, asking if there was anything she needed to tell me. She couldn't speak, and that's when I dropped the bomb. Calmly, I said, "I know everything. I know when you wake up to text him, and I know who he is." Tears streamed down her face as she apologized, but I remained composed. I issued a stern warning about the crucial moments ahead, urging her to come clean. My wife finally confessed to flirting with her coworker, dealing with marital troubles, and it escalated beyond casual chit-chat. She insisted they never did anything physical, but I wondered if she was telling the whole truth. I gave her an ultimatum to confess everything or leave. She cried and apologized, admitting to flirting with her coworker, who also faced marital issues, but I doubted she was telling me the whole truth. I told her we'd discuss things later, and she needed to pack a bag and leave for her mom's house. As she left, she asked if I would leave her. I didn't give her a direct answer and said we would talk later. However, she kept blowing up my phone, so I turned it off to get some space. Deciding to seek a marriage counselor, I pretended to want reconciliation to avoid suspicion. Last night's confrontation wasn't impulsive. I had a plan. While playfully wrestling and tickling her, I recorded the entire thing on my phone, just in case she falsely accused me of something later. I checked with a friend to ensure it was legal in our state, and he confirmed it was. Despite thinking she wouldn't do that, I can't be too careful given the circumstances. I'm a big guy, 6'4" and 240 pounds of muscle. I used to be a fighter, now training fighters. If there's any false accusation, I know the odds are against me. I could get arrested and lose everything, including my kids. That's why I plan to keep recording everything as an insurance policy. My world has shattered into a million pieces. My family, my everything, has been destroyed. I'll miss out on 50% of my children's childhood. Despite sensing something was wrong, the reality blindsided me. The worst part? This is just the beginning of the pain. I want to confront the other guy, but I know I need to hold back. I heard through the grapevine that he found me terrifying when he first laid eyes on me, so I'd like to give him a good scare. And to top it all off, in one of the texts my wife and he shared, he referred to me as the animal, after she made a jab at my intelligence. I may not have a college degree or make much money, but I'm not stupid. I love learning and reading books on all sorts of topics. But in this moment, I'm feeling anything but smart. For now, I'm just trying to make sense of this devastation. Update. My friend, who's an attorney, connected me with a family law specialist. The positive part is this attorney understands what it's like to be cheated on, having been in my shoes. My friend mentioned he's eager to help and won't charge me excessively. It's a good development amid the chaos. On the other hand, my wife came clean about having an affair. She started with the excuse of just flirting, but I didn't buy it. Eventually, she confessed it turned physical, lasting longer than I thought. She shared all the steamy details, and I'm honestly unsure how to feel about it. My head is spinning and I can't focus. The emotional roller coaster is too much. I had a serious talk with my wife, suggesting it's best for her to stay with her mom for now. Being around her became unbearable. I needed space, and so did our kids. They deserved normalcy, and I decided to take care of them. My attorney mentioned that staying in the house is a significant advantage in this situation. Although I decided our marriage was over, I kept it to myself. She'll find out when the papers are served. My mind is a mess, constantly replaying thoughts of my wife with this guy. Trying to stay focused on coaching fighters in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu helps a bit, but my mind often wanders. Physical exertion helps clear my head a little, but it's not a permanent fix. My kids have been my saving grace, and I focus all my attention and affection on them. Beyond BJJ and my children, I love learning and reading about new topics. Unfortunately, I can't concentrate on a paragraph without losing my train of thought. The text calling me a stupid animal make me wonder what else was said. It feels like I'm trapped in a nightmare, and the happy-go-lucky me feels like a distant memory. As news of my situation spread, many people offered support, which is comforting. Surprisingly, some friends' wives offered to set me up with some beautiful women they know, some of whom seem interested. But as tempting as it may be, I have no intention of dating until this is all behind me, and even then, it might take a while. Right now, my focus is solely on my kids, ensuring they have stability during this tough time. My heart is shattered, and my kids bear the brunt of the fallout. Being a single dad wasn't something I ever envisioned, but here I am. Meanwhile, my wife seems to be spiraling into a dark abyss. The guy she cheated on me with apparently bailed on her, and she's been drowning her sorrows in drinks, going out with men she meets online. She's been reaching out to me, sobbing and begging me to take her back, saying she wants her old life back. It's tempting, but I know I can't let her back into my life. It seems she's turned her anger towards me once she learned how much she'll have to pay in monthly support. At least that means I can get some peace from her constant calls. My kids don't get it. I feel miserable every second they're not with me. I'm lonely all the time, spending most of my time at home. The girl at the coffee shop noticed I looked sad and asked if everything was okay. I guess I'm not hiding it well. People want to set me up, but I feel branded as the guy whose wife cheated, so I'm not interested. It's been so long. I have no idea how to date. The success of a few fighters on a public stage has been the only spark I've felt in a long time. I'm not sure what I'll do next, and I need to snap out of it at some point, but I lack the motivation. I decided to take matters into my own hands and expose the other guy. With proof of the affair, I contacted his wife and presented the evidence. I couldn't sit back and let him get away with it. Initially, she didn't believe me, but later I heard there were significant problems in their marriage. They might still be together, but their relationship is hanging by a thread. I'm struggling with intense feelings of anger and frustration over the situation. Life is full of surprises. I never thought I'd be in this situation, but here I am. On a positive note, there's a girl I met through friends, and I can't stop thinking about her. She's gorgeous, but she's also about 14 years younger than me. The age gap seems significant, and my confidence is low, but I can't stop thinking about her. I haven't asked her out yet. The last 6 months have been an emotional roller coaster. I never expected such profound sadness. My usual happy-go-lucky personality has been replaced by a dark and melancholic one. After the terrible experience, I took some time for myself. During that time, the beautiful younger woman I was interested in got a long-term job assignment in Europe. Even though she was miles away, we kept in touch through technology. When her assignment was over, she returned, and we've been together ever since. She adores me and my kids and has a heart of gold. Before we met, I heard about this incredible woman who looked like Wonder Woman and was the kindest person you could ever imagine. I thought it was too good to be true, but she's everything and more. I believe we're ready to take the next steps in our relationship soon. My ex-wife's life has taken a turn for the worse since our divorce. She started drinking heavily, hooking up with random guys online, and took on more work, which took a toll on her. The last time I saw her, she looked like she had aged 15 years, as if her life force had been drained from her. Her best friend told me she's become a miserable person to be around. I still can't understand how someone who seemed to have everything under control could spiral into such a dark place. Her friend also confided in me that my ex-wife never expected me to leave her after the affair. I believe she thought she had control over me because of her high income. It's sad to see the consequences of her actions, but I hope she finds peace for the sake of our kids. Life is pretty good now, despite ongoing pandemic struggles. Looking back, I'm glad I didn't drag out my first marriage. Ending it was a tough call, but it was the right one. After that, it was just one step in front of the other. Every day I pushed a little further, even though it felt like I was wading through quicksand. I now know that when you're in that situation, you have to think long term. You might feel like the world is ending, but there's always hope. The key is to keep moving forward, no matter how hard it gets. Trust me, it gets pretty damn hard. But every day, try to do something that adds to your skill set. Not just motivational self-help stuff, but real skills. For me, I started making short films of my fighters and got into videography and editing. It's been a fun hobby, and I've learned a lot. I also read more books than ever before, trying to learn about all sorts of topics. Small things like these add up over time. You just have to keep at it and be patient with yourself.